Okay, we're live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another live stream. I have a very special guest that's joining me today. I love doing shows with Sabur, man. And he's in the UK now, so he's not in Pakistan anymore. And Assalamu alaikum, bro. How's it going?
Salam. Yes, man, I survived. I managed to come across. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, good. So, bro, what I want you to do today. Look, I've been doing a lot of videos on atheists and the meaning of life, and just critiquing their views on it, right? And a common trend seems to be appearing that when it comes to the question of the meaning of life, bro, it's very clueless for them from that perspective. They just don't know where to go, what to say. Some of them acknowledge it, that there's no meaning or purpose to life. The others, they beat around the bush for a while and then they come up with the same stuff anyway at the end. Now, I've got another clip here today, and today what I want to do is I've got you on, bro, because I want your take on it now. I want you to dissect this and give us your thoughts as you watch it for the first time. This is a very old clip of Richard Dawkins and Ricky Gervais. You've probably seen it before, but this is a specific section, and I'm going to play it. I want to get your thoughts on it. But before I do that, bro, I know you've done some videos on the meaning and purpose of life, on atheism and nihilism and stuff like this. What's your overall summary take on the whole situation, bro, when it comes to the purpose of life and atheism?
It's literally like this, right? It's like a kid playing PlayStation, enjoying their PlayStation, really loving it, pressing all the buttons and going crazy. And somebody comes along and takes out the plug, right? So all of the enjoyment ends, and there's no argument. There's no argument. The game's over, right? That's what it's like when atheists are talking about human rights, science, meaning of life, purpose, when they're doing all these things, and you come along and you bring nihilism. You show that everything is meaningless, everything is dark, everything is depressing, everything is sad. You take out the plug and they just freak out. Like literally, what you find atheists doing is they act as rational as they try and act. They completely become clueless when it comes to purpose of life, meaning of life, and how to address the problem of nihilism.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting is, like you said, the plug's pulled out, but here we're going to see a clip where Dawkins tries to reinsert the plug and tries to give an account for meaning of life on atheism. And he has everyone has a subtly different, nuanced way of looking at the meaning of life on atheism, right? It all revolves around the same fundamental issue, but he has a very subtle, unique take on it, which I'm going to get into today.
Okay, just one second. Heldon is asking, Assalamu alaikum, could you please ask Ali Dawa when he'll release the marriage documentary? I'm sorry, this has been going on for a while. I think what we all need to do as du'at is we just need to turn up at Ali's house and just beat him on the front door and just give him licks and record it and put it on the internet. I think that
so we'll hold Sabur accountable.
We've all had enough. I think it's starting to affect our mental state now, this marriage documentary.
Bro, I'm pretty sure some atheists are waiting for it as well. Because he's got a few atheists on his channel that watches.
There's probably an atheist that's had enough of life and they're planning on stopping themselves, and they're just sitting on a chair with like a noose around their neck, ready to commit suicide. They're waiting for Ali Dawa's documentary because they're like, look,
let's hope not. Let's hope not. I hope that's not the case. Okay, so Sabur, without further ado, bro, I'm gonna start playing this clip in bits, and I'm gonna pause it, and I want to get your thoughts on those sections. Yeah, you ready? Yeah. Okay.
So why does a 21st century British atheist get up in the morning?
I think you have to have worth. I think you have to feel in yourself you have worth. Friends, family, a loving relationship. Just because we're human, and that's how we're built.
All right, give us your thoughts on that start off summary of Ricky Gervais.
Look at Dawkins' face. Dawkins' face is my reaction inside right now, and it's basically like you're supposed to like make atheism look good right now, not just say, well, it's just feeling. Remember, these guys are the guys who are like, don't go by feelings. Feelings don't care about facts. It's not about feelings. It's about hard, scientific, empirical, verifiable facts. That's what it's about. It's not about feelings. And now he's being asked the most important question, and he's like, well, we're human, and that's what we do, and it's about your friends. And he just said some complete garbage right now. He just said love of friends and family or whatever it is. What is love except a chemical reaction which is there to help you survive and reproduce in the world? I mean, these guys, you could tell by Dawkins' reaction, he himself is not buying it. You could tell. You could tell.
On that point, give us a bit more of that.
Let me try and plug this hole right now that Ricky just brought up.
Yeah. So give me a bit more on that. That's an interesting point you made. It's like chemical reactions don't care about love.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, this guy, Ricky, he's just like, he's just hand waving, right? He's just hand waving. He's just like, well, we are blah, blah, blah. That's what he's basically doing. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, you're being asked a very important question. Why do you get up in the morning? And your answer is, well, I kind of feel like it. And, it's about, just being happy and loving your family or whatever it is. But that's not an answer. Because if I as a, I don't know, evangelical Bible bashing Christian, somebody asked me, why do you believe in Jesus or the rapture or whatever? And I'm like, I feel like it. And they'll be like, oh, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean you just feel like it? So these atheists, they try and be cold, reductionist, empirical. And right now they're starting to sound like a bunch of religious people, essentially, which is, well, it's about how you feel,
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Atheists always contradict their narrative. They set a standard which is so strict, and they want evidence for God to be as strict as a mathematical formula. They want evidence for anything in life, whether it's the way that they live their life or the way they treat others. Everything has to be in this sort of scientific reductionist form. And when it comes to the most important question, like the meaning and purpose of life, it's kind of like, yeah, kind of feel like it. But that's the thing. Meaning, purpose is what animates your life. It's what gives you life, right? So if you don't have electricity, it doesn't matter if you have a PlayStation, right? You can't play anything. So you have to understand, if they can't answer this question, atheism is a non-starter. It's a non-starter. It basically means what atheist philosophers were saying previously about, well, why don't you just commit suicide? And that being a valid question. And in fact, one of the first questions, it clearly shows they still haven't, after 100 years, or after Nietzsche and Camus and these guys, they still haven't worked out an answer.
Yeah. And I think that's a very powerful point you made, which is meaning animates your life. That's very profound, bro, because if you think about it, anything you venture out into doing, such as becoming a scientist, a philanthropist, a I don't know, a saint, whatever, everything has to be, all of these goals are driven by meaning. There has to be an underlying meaning to life that drives all of these things, right? But what you're saying is, if you don't have that figured out, well, then what point is there, or what keeps you going and doing all of these things or wanting to do all of these things, right? And this sort of highlights the underlying issue, which is that even atheists recognize there is meaning and purpose to life. It's just they can't provide an account for it, right? And they want to have their cake and eat it from that perspective. They're fine, we can't make sense of it, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, they'll just be like, they'll either say it's not an important question, or they'll try and say, well, you make your own meaning. They'll always try and give you these types of answers. But the fundamental point is this: meaning is based upon something which is not man-made. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? Why do we exist? These important existential questions, you can't just get a comedian to answer it. I mean, you can't. I mean, a comedian. This guy is so bad. He's so bad. I mean, at least attempt to give an answer, because if what he just said is right. Now, Dawkins, he's trying to get people into science, which is a good thing. And even find atheists saying, don't do this, don't do that, just do science, as if science is a meaning of life, right? Just to do science is the meaning of life. But what you guys don't recognize is that science itself is mute. It's not something which is a worldview. You need to have a worldview to do science. So, for example, you're not just going to study the world. If you care about knowledge, if you think knowledge is valuable, if you think truth is valuable, then you'll study science, right? If you think looking for medical cures is a good thing, then that's science. Now, someone's writing, you blind yourselves to reality through the drug of your religion. Okay, absolutely fine. What's wrong with drugging yourself and blindly following religion? If nihilism is true, right? If everything is meaningless, if truth doesn't actually matter. I mean, the thing is that when we are playing devil's advocate and we're trying to say, well, this is what an atheist would say, or that's what an atheist would say, the fact is nihilism is something which totally destroys atheism. They literally do not have a leg to stand on. So when they're calling for human rights, or they're calling for science, or they're calling for truth, or they're calling for rationality, or they're calling for, all these types of things, essentially, if nihilism is true, it's all meaningless. There's no difference between a farmer in the Philippines who has 9 children and who is struggling on a daily basis and to provide for his children and take care of them, and is a good moral person, and somebody who just goes around kidnapping, killing, doing all these types of things. There's no difference between 2 people on earth, regardless of whatever happens in their life, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah. There's 2 points, bro. I think I just want to quickly highlight here and relate to what you're saying as well, bro. Is number one, according to the atheist paradigm, bro, if they realize nihilism, if they end up with nihilism, and they also realize that this where they've ended up, this nihilism is leading to anxiety and pain and depression and angst, bro, which is keeping them from doing anything. Because remember, it's not only that it lands you in nihilism, but when you land in nihilism, it has a direct impact on your being and how you feel, right? It leads to depression, anxiety, existential crisis, all of these things. Now, if that's the case, and you're in that state, the last thing you're worried about is passing on your genes or surviving, bro. So in that scenario, it's fitting for an atheist to adopt a religious view, which gives them meaning, which allows them to go and propagate the DNA, right? That's what should make sense from an evolutionary perspective as well for them.
And
So
this is, Imran, this is the dumbest argument that atheists use, right? The dumbest argument. Religion is the opiate of the masses. Yes, religion is the opiate of the masses because evolution selected religious beliefs because they help you survive and reproduce.
From their perspective, absolutely.
What's your point? You're basically saying roses are roses. You're just pointing out a fact according to naturalism. Because remember, the whole reason why atheists are so annoyed at us is we're always using their worldview to basically show why it's inconsistent. So according to an atheist worldview, they need to give an explanation of religion. Well, where did religion come from? Religion provides comfort. It's an opiate for the masses. And they use that as if that's an argument. Actually, it's not an argument. We can simply say, okay, no problem. So why does religion persist? Well, religion persists because it helps you survive and reproduce, and it helps for social cohesion. Which all has fundamentally fitness advantage. It's advantageous to you for your genes to be passed on to the next generation. Okay, so what's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem with religion? Even if religion's false, what's the difference between truth and falsehood? The atheists, right? They're literally like a bunch of horny teenagers walking around staring at women. They're just so childish. They're just doing something so lowly. They're just going for low-hanging fruit. They don't really understand how pathetic their worldview is. And that's why a lot of people, when they grow up and they outgrow atheism, they become Jordan Peterson fans because they're like, life is meaningless. Okay, I have a reason to get up in the morning. I have a thing. Look how much, Imran, look how much people go through pain and suffering in life. And what do atheists have to say? Well, that's just dumb bad luck. Right? It is, fundamentally.
I think you know what it is, bro. So, and again, just on that point about, this idea that religion is made up because it provides comfort. This idea, bro, I've seen it come up over and over again. You see it in Marx, right? Oh, religion is the opiate of the masses. You see it in Harari's work, Sapiens, that book, which you obviously have gone through. He has a very similar idea, that religion is made up. It's a story which allows for progress, etc. You see in Dawkins, he says a very similar thing. Religion is made up because it provides comfort. This isn't, bro. If you think about it, this in and of itself is not really an argument. It's not a definitive argument that therefore religion is made up just because it provides comfort. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, well, it provides comfort because it comes from the one that created the human being that understands human nature.
Yes, Imran, you're right. You're right. That's true. And this is why. And I said this to the Jewish atheist yesterday, who I was having a discussion with, that spiritual experiences of feeling better is something which we don't believe only Muslims can hold on to. We do believe that if you have a relationship with God, that this does make your life very, very much better than being an atheist. However, there's an important point to note here. You're talking about religion provides comfort because religious connection with God is something which is true and real and meaningful, therefore it provides it. But Imran, let's just forget that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's just pretend to be atheists, right? Religion is false. It's totally false. Believe in God is, say, false. Everything is false. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But why should I not still be religious?
Yeah, you still should be from their perspective. Absolutely.
Remember, look, this is the whole point. Yeah, atheists are like a naked person who walks around on the streets pointing at people's hands and saying, "You're not wearing gloves, so you're immoral." Yeah, they're just making these random moral judgments, these random value judgments, which are completely baseless when they're not wearing any clothes, right? It's literally, that is what they're like, because we need to stop taking them so seriously. We need to stop, even when they say, give me rational evidence for God. We can say, well, what's the evidence that you need rational evidence for God? Why is rationality important? Why is truth important? Why is it important? Why can't I just follow falsehood and be happy? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, look at these interesting things. When we talk about science, right, we say, look, at the end of the day, science is based on methodological naturalism, so its conclusions are always going to be naturalistic. Problem induction, problem underdetermination, problem unconceived alternatives, theory ladenness, right? All of this stuff, and they'll say, yeah, but it works. It makes me,
Yeah.
it makes our lives better. Well, okay, fine. Let's apply that to a false religious belief, right? Fine. You got to be consistent. That's the whole problem with atheists.
Yes.
They're not consistent.
Yeah. You mentioned about Jordan Peterson, bro. I was just thinking of that now, which is it's very interesting. I really believe one of the reasons he has such a great following is because that there's a huge bulk of individuals, humans, or people who were previously inspired by and followed and looked up to the Dawkins and the Harrises, but they're starting to move away from that slowly because they realize by adopting their naturalism, it's stripping them from providing an account for those very fundamental things they know to be true, such as the meaning of life, etc. So they're moving away from that this sort of dry new age, new atheism, which is predominantly naturalistic in and of itself, and they're moving towards a view which is more, okay, at least I get meaning, right, and I can move forward and I can make the most of life. And I think that's what results in such great followings for or with people like Jordan Peterson, etc. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of like this. When you're young, right? When you're young, things like death anxiety don't really affect you. When you become middle-aged, that's when you start thinking, oh my God, like I need to think about my life.
Yeah.
So what it is actually, could you put up the comment of Andrew?
The most recent one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us, Andrew. I think you joined us, joined me and Gideon yesterday as well, and I didn't actually highlight any of your stuff. But I, from what I remember yesterday, I think you were a atheist or agnostic or something. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. So what it is when you get older, you start thinking about death anxiety. You start thinking about okay. So go to Andrew's next comment, please.
Here you go.
Islam means you already made a huge assumption. Atheism and Islam are the same in many
ways.
Okay, I'm not really sure what that means. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
If you elaborate on that, Andrew, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah. So and we always welcome non-Muslims on the show, because most of our audience watching is Muslim, but we try and prioritize non-Muslims because obviously at the end of the day, we're trying to convey a message here. So what it is, Andrew, sorry, not Andrew, Imran. What it is, Imran, is that when you get middle-aged, you start thinking, oh my God. You actually start thinking, oh my God, like, what's the meaning of life? What happens after I die? Now, I just want to regurgitate a tweet which Pondering Soul put on Twitter, which I thought was very interesting. What he said is that imagine you and your loved ones, they're all going to be gone in the future. Let that sink in. Let that overwhelm you. And you should consume yourself in that and cry. And when I was thinking about it, I really, really resonated with that. And the reason why I resonated with that is because I like to think about the question, what's the meaning of my life after 100 years? 100 years from now, like, look, Imran, what's the name of your great-grandfather? Not your grandfather, your great-grandfather.
I don't know. Don't remember.
You don't know, right? You actually probably know nothing about him, and he's just irrelevant in your life till you're in this age right now of 30 something, right? I just asked you about your great-grandfather. He lived about 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right now, he to you in a way is meaningless. His life and everything, it does not affect you in any way. Likewise, you in 100 years time, someone is going to be on earth who's going to be your great grandson or granddaughter, and they are not going to give a dime about you. They don't really, like, you're going to be irrelevant to them. So what is your life in 100 years from now? What is your feelings? What is your emotions? What is your all of this psychological issues that we have in terms of our relationships and these types of things, and our love and fear and hope and all these things? What is it in 100 years? We'll be dust. We'll be in the graves. We'll be worm food. We'll be finished, right? And this is a really, really sobering thought. And I love to use these sobering thoughts, Imran, because I'm trying to get atheists to stop being so arrogant, to start thinking about these questions properly, to stop pretending as if you can make your own meaning, to stop pretending as if these things are not important. I mean, just look at Dawkins' face. Just look at his face.
Let's hear from Dawkins as well, bro.
Does that look like someone that's fulfilled? That's someone that's found the meaning of life? He is obviously somebody that's in a better state than other atheists because he has such a mass following. He has all these people. So he has this escapism that he's always on Twitter. He can always keep himself busy. But all of those atheists who are following him and they're commenting from their mom's basements and, doing all these types of things. And, what's their meaning of life? How do they, and a lot of people, they fail in escapism.
Yeah.
Dawkins can maintain his escapism because he's so popular, right?
Yep.
But I spoke to a brother who used to be an atheist, and he said one of the reasons why he left militant atheism, started looking at faith, is he basically was, sorry to be crude in Ramadan, but basically having sex, drinking, taking drugs, partying. He did everything that you could do, every vice that you are told that this is going to give you happiness. He did it to the point of it was meaningless. It was totally meaningless. All those one-night stands were meaningless. All those drugs were meaningless. All those fans and his friends and going out, everything became so dead and redundant that he started to think, why do I exist? And that was an opening which eventually led him to believe in God and believe in Islam.
But that's what it boils down to. Look, here's an interesting point by philosopher MMA, and I was going to ask you about this. Now, what we see by what Ricky just said a little while ago when we played the clip was essentially he was talking about things which lead to pleasure, according to him, right? Things that please him, make him feel good. What's his name? I did the video on him 3 days ago. The guy from America, the famous atheist from America. I've forgotten his name's left my mind right now.
Michael Sherman.
No. The with the bald head.
Oh, Dillahunty.
Yes, yeah. So basically, he basically went down the same line. He talked about things that lead to pleasure and that making life worth living. Right now, they always appeal to pleasure. What they basically are saying is, well, there's no ultimate meaning or purpose to life. Fine, but it's still worth living because we can live and consciously experience pleasure and enjoy ourselves. What do you make of this? Is this an scapegoat for them? Is this a way of getting away with it? Doesn't it really work? What are they doing? What's going on here, bro? What do you make of this?
So here we're just going to use a very simple tactic. We're going to use their skepticism. They say we're skeptics, we're brights, we're atheists, we're rational, we question everything. Okay, fine. So they don't believe, right? These childish people, they don't believe in self-evident truths. They don't believe that you have to start, and obviously more sophisticated atheists don't believe in this, like Stephen Law and stuff, right? But these childish atheists, they do. And they'll say, no, you have to question everything. Okay, fine. Of course, that leads to an infinite regress, but okay, fine. So why pleasure?
Mm.
And what you find these people do is either they haven't asked the question, or they say stupid things like, well, what else do we have? But that's not an argument.
Yeah.
That's not an argument. That's so redundant. What is that? But what else do we have? What else? Some people try and argue, well, we can't seek anything else but pleasure.
Mm.
Okay, but that still doesn't give it any credibility.
Yeah.
What credibility does it actually have by saying that that's all we can actually seek? So why pleasure? Why not anxiety? Why not maximizing anxiety? I asked this to Cosmic Skeptic, and there was no answer. It was just, he just completely ignored that point. I mean, I said it in my opening, and he just completely ignored that point. And the thing is, look, we need to start asking these questions. Pleasure is simply a proximate mechanism to help us with the ultimate goal of survival. What do I mean by proximate mechanism? Okay. Now, what it basically is money is instrumentally useful. Money is not, you use money to buy milk. Milk is something that we could say has intrinsic worth, right? It's something that, you give to children, and, adults can drink it, and it's something, right? So money itself is instrumentally useful. Milk is, or a product like that, is intrinsically useful. Pleasure, from an evolutionary point, it only exists to help you with your ultimate goal of survival and reproduction. So when we think about intercourse, when you are basically involved in that, you're maximizing your pleasure, right? And your that neurotransmitter dopamine is like, going into overdrive, and it's going everywhere, right? So that's why people are addicted, right, to sex and these types of things. Okay, so that's pleasure, but the whole point of that is to help you procreate for your genes.
Yep.
So pleasure in of itself is not intrinsically valuable. Now, food, we evolved, and obviously I'm accepting the Darwinian thing here. We evolved to like food because food helps you survive. It's not I'm eating food, therefore it's intrinsically valuable. No, it's there to help you survive and reproduce. That's the ultimate goal. It's a proximate mechanism. Now, here's the interesting thing, Imran.
Yeah.
Pleasure is not the only proximate mechanism. There are other mechanisms. For example, another mechanism which helps you is anxiety. If you see a snake, like I'm lying in bed right now, right? If I see a snake that comes underneath the bed and it starts moving around the room, and I'm someone that's always completely going by pleasure, I have no anxiety mechanism. I won't survive. Right? So I need to have, oh my God, it's a snake, I need to run away. Yeah. So for the ultimate survival, so I can go basically procreate again or eat something. So basically what it is that anxiety, pleasure, and a whole host of emotions and feelings, these are proximate mechanisms. Okay? Which is why evolutionary psychologists say contentment is not something you should really have, right? You shouldn't have too much contentment from an evolutionary point of view, because it's less likely to help you survive and reproduce and pass on your genes. So if we have all these proximate mechanisms, why on earth did atheists decide to use pleasure and select that one amongst the list? Where on earth did they get that from? Why did they arbitrarily choose one? They need to justify that. These people are skeptics after all, aren't they? So they need to justify why it's pleasure. This is where people like Matt Dillahunty, I have to say, he does come across as being very sharp and intellectual, right? But interestingly enough, if you really want to know how smart he is, look at whether his arguments are being used by top atheist philosophers like Stephen Law. And they're not. They're not, right? You're not going to find, like, that's why these people are so popular, because they're so binary. They have these very popular cliches that they can overwhelm people with. But look at when Matt Dillahunty talks about meaning of life. He cannot even get away with trying to look smart.
Yeah.
He doesn't even allow us the privilege of having the misconception of thinking that he's smart. He comes across really stupid when he's talking about meaning of life. In the same way that Dawkins is a great science writer. I would say he's probably one of the best in the world as a science writer, right? He's a great, fantastic science writer, right? But when he talks about the meaning of life, he just sounds really ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's give him. He's eager to go, bro. Let's let him speak. Let him speak for himself, and then we'll come back to what he says, and let him use his telescope, which he's about to do, to inject some meaning into life in a second. So I'm gonna play the clip and just watch it, and let me know what you think about the rest of this.
And for me personally, something creative. It doesn't have to be painting the Sistine Chapel. It can be gardening. But I think you have to do something and enjoy it. Fill your free time and stand back and look.
Sorry, pause it.
All right, okay.
Go back a few. Go back.
We haven't even got to Dawkins yet, man. Come on. All right, okay.
Go back a few seconds. No. The Ricky's face. Like Ricky's face, yeah.
It can be gardening.
I'll tell you when to pause
Do
it.
something and enjoy it. And
There you go. Pause it. Did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Face, just his face. He knows he's talking nonsense. That just look. You have to be able to be a people person and read people's faces. That face I recognize. That's the face when you get your pants down.
Bro, you know what it is? I'm thinking of stringing a video together, yeah, with all of these atheists speaking about the meaning of life. And wallahi, I'm not joking, bro. Allah's my witness. You see this over and over again. When they ask the question of meaning of life, something happens to them which comes across in the expressions. Is this utter state of confusion and bewilderment, bro. It's almost like a deer in headlights. This is like, whoa, what was that? And it's almost like for a moment the soul has left them. It's just complete black. And you see it in Dawkins, you see it in Ricky, you see it in who else was there? There was this other guy that was asked the question. Just, any atheist that's asked this question, you see there's a state of moment, at least a momentary state of confusion which appears on their faces.
Sam Jamal, put up Sam Jamal, please. And Imran, you need to engage with your audience more, bro.
Yeah, sorry, but I tried to get into the questions more, but yeah, I'm gonna try. We're working on it, bro. So,
look, I need to take out the whip on this guy, man. You need to take care of the audience. Okay, Sam Jamal, yeah, I totally agree. This is a depressed man's expression. I'll be very frank with you. I don't care. Any atheist, any agnostic who's deeply thought about existential questions cannot be a happy atheist. It's a lie. It's a big fat lie. So many people who accept Islam, they talk about how they were existentially depressed before they came to Islam. The fact is that Islam is a religion which helps you escape nihilism. It helps you escape this meaninglessness of life. You know, honestly, Imran, when I start thinking about life from an atheist perspective as a devil's advocate, just trying to look at it from their perspective, I start feeling down. I'm not even kidding. I don't believe. I mean, I believe in Allah. I believe that this world is not all that there is. I believe in meaning, value, purpose. I believe in these things. But just when I'm trying to put on the atheist hat and I'm trying to think of the world from their perspective, just thinking about it affects me mentally. I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling depressed. I messaged Yusuf, Yusuf Ponders the other day, a few weeks ago, and I said, bro, I'm feeling really down, man. I'm feeling really down. This is,
it's dark, bro. Even if you come close to it, it puts you in a very strange state. Like,
okay. So carry on.
Yeah, it's a crazy place to be, bro. That's why it just really puzzles me as to why so many atheists still just manage to just deal with it or just make themselves deal with it and keep going. And this is where I believe, bro, a lot of it's to do with, it's a balance in it. It's like, okay, I'm holding on to a view which is causing me anxiety and angst and pain from an existential perspective, but at the same time, I can do whatever I want, enjoy my life, not be accountable, etc. Right? And I said this on your thing as well the other day, bro. But the irony in that, bro, is that it's circular, bro. It's like you're turning away from God to put yourself in a position where you can maximize pleasure from life and do what you want without accountability. But then, so the meaning you're chasing in life by turning away from God, that meaning is being removed as soon as you turn away from God. So it becomes, it's pointless. You can't move when you turn away from God. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, Imran. And it's escapism, right? It's escapism. People want to escape. People want to keep themselves busy. Now, one way that they do escapism is by evangelizing atheism, because that supposedly gives them meaning. Now, Brother Ubaidullah Nabil, you should both do a response together on Penn and Gillette's talks about atheism and his book, God, No Signs You May Already Be an Atheist and Other Magical Tales. Brother Abdullah, Ubaidullah, all you need to do is you need to apply what we're saying right now to that book. What's the meaning behind that book? What's the purpose behind that book? Penn, Gillette, whatever his name is, he's trying to say, come to atheism because atheism's true, right? That's the point he's trying to make. He's saying, come to atheism because atheism's true. Come to atheism is going to make your life better. That's all he's saying. That's all that's being said in these atheist books, right? They say, well, basically they say three things. They say religion is harmful, atheism is going to make your life better, and atheism is rational and is true. That's why you should follow it. That's their point. All three of these points are meaningless. They're completely meaningless. They have no basis. If atheism is true, truth doesn't matter. Falsehood doesn't matter. Better and worse is the same thing. There's no difference between you sitting in a chair and getting tortured and you sitting somewhere and, taking heroin and getting these dopamine flares in your brain, right? It doesn't matter. It's all the same. Oh my God, Sadhguru, bring him. Bring him. Salman Al-Farsi bought this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so the brother is saying, Philosopher MMA, my only request is please both of you do a reaction video to Sadhguru. We'll definitely do that, bro. I've been trying to get another brother to do it, but he's not been well, so may Allah give him shifa. I'm gonna get Sabur to come on. I think he'll be the best person. Bro, Sabur, you know what I did the Sadhguru video last time? Yeah. It's had so many views for the size of the channel that or the size of epistemics. And bro, 80 to 90% were all of his followers that came out and were very aggressive, yeah. And what was shocking to me, bro, what was so surprising, that the followers of a guru who promotes, peace and love and compassion and all of these types of ideas, they're so aggressive, bro. They were more aggressive than most of the militant atheists that comment on these channels, bro.
Yeah, because we see Sadhguru, yeah. I'll be very honest with you. He's a very mixed character. I've seen some of his things and I'm like, okay, this guy clearly he likes people to be together. He's trying to do good stuff. I've heard him say some really nice things. Yeah. And other times he's saying nice things, but he's saying them in a really dumb way. And he gets away with it sometimes. And I feel like his audience is a little bit, his audience is almost, it's almost cultish, because he sometimes says some really ridiculous things. Yeah. And he says sometimes things which are unbelievable. Like, okay, I get it. He's trying to come across as this new age guru and coming across like really philosophical and stuff. I like some of the things he's trying to say, but there's other things that he says which are completely nonsensical. And you can also find that he is pandering a little bit. He is pandering a little bit to the far right. I think there is something going on there.
Okay, but anyway, that's not today's topic, bro. Let's get back to. I want to hear from Dawkins, man. He's probably, we need to hear from him before we get to his views, inshallah, because he takes a little bit of a twist on this now. It's almost like damage control now, yeah. So Dawkins is trying to do some damage control, and I want you to analyze how he tries to do this and give us your thoughts on that.
Okay, wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Pancake Fist. Can you put him up for a second?
Where is that? 1 second. So any tips on dealing with doubts? And do you guys have any tips on getting rid of materialism and hedonism? Well, drugs.
Okay, look, firstly, materialism and hedonism is linked to doubts. Okay, that's very important to understand. Another thing to understand is that knowledge is the cure to doubts. However, I would say the cure to a lot of everything you're basically saying is thinking and reflecting about death. Death is something which is like a liquid which you put on a dusty car's windscreen, and it clarifies everything. You know where you're going. You can see the road signs. You know exactly what's going on. Before that, it's all blurry. Honestly, in my life, if I can think about points in my life where I made dramatic changes and I did, inshallah, things which I believe are good actions, it's after I was reflecting about death a lot, and that made me a lot more, inshallah, sincere, and that made me a lot more driven to try and do these types of things. Okay, yeah, let's carry on watching the video.
All right, let's get to Dawkins.
And stand back and look and go, I did that. These are all reasons to stay around for as long as you can.
I would agree with all that, and I think I would add understanding as well. Religious believers tell me they're puzzled that non-believers like Ricky Gervais and me can find any meaning or purpose in a godless existence. But for me, the world teems with meaning. It's up to each of us to give our own lives meaning through our work, our relationships and passions. And I think through one other thing, understanding who we are and trying to understand why we're here.
All right, so Sabur,
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on that, but there was a bit of a U-turn there, yeah? So essentially, one thing he says is that we have to give us our lives meaning. First, he says life is teeming with meaning, right? Then he says we have to give ourselves meaning, okay? And then he says there's one more thing. We have to find out who we are and why we're here. Then he goes back to the original point as to what is the real purpose of our existence, finding out about our own existence. But what he seems to do is when he makes that point, he seems to point towards science, right? And this subtle is subliminal because there's a telescope, there is this, there's that. It's almost like he's trying to suggest that we're going to find meaning through studying the world, through science. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on what you just witnessed there and what you take from that, bro.
So, look, he's obviously just doing some sophisticated hand waving, right? He's just like, oh, yeah.
Show us your example. How'd you do it? How does that work?
It's like fighting off a mosquito, yeah? But the problem is it's a platonic mosquito. It keeps coming back. The issue is this. He's saying the world is teeming with meaning, and you can make your own meaning. That seems like a contradiction, but maybe he means that each person is making their own meaning. Okay, what's your meaning based upon? Your meaning is based upon, your passions, right? What you're passionate about. Okay, what if somebody is passionate about faking scientific experiments, forging testimonies, and becoming a great scientist? We've had this replication crisis in science, where a large percentage of scientific papers are basically churning out information which is hard to replicate. So what's wrong with that? What if somebody's like, well, I got to make a career and I don't really have any good ideas, so I'm just going to fake it? Or somebody that basically, what could happen is Imran, right? Imran has a really dark side. What he could do one day is he could just take a plane and go to a remote South American country where there's a tribal people, and he'll just go there with all his technology. These are primitive people, and he'll basically become the king, and he'll start enacting laws, and he'll make his own little kingdom and his own little cult, and then I'll have to turn up with, a few brothers and just sort him out, put an end to his corruption. So, we can, and that can give me meaning. You can have meaning in setting up your own cult. I mean, we could just make up our own world of stories of these types of things. It's all meaningless. It's all baseless. But at the end of the day, let's just go with this criteria of passion. Our passions. What does Allah tell us in the Quran about our passion? What does God tell us about our passion? To declare war on your passion. To declare war on your passion. To fight off your desires. To actually make it so that your true driven direction, desire in life is to worship God. Islam doesn't tell you to act like an animal, that, like the Nike slogan, just do it, right? Or follow your heart. These things Islam doesn't tell you. Islam doesn't tell you follow your heart. Islam tells you correct your heart. Islam tells you come to God with a pure heart. Islam doesn't say follow your passions. Islam says redirect it so that your passions are the truth and you follow those things. So he's basically asking us to act like an animal, right? Now, understanding, it's about understanding. Okay, Mr. Dawkins, would you like, this carpet on the floor? I want to understand how many strands of how many threads are in this carpet, and I'm going to start on this end with a little microscope, and I'm going to start counting. Then I'm going to spend 50 years microscopically going through this carpet and counting each one strand individually amongst the trillions of strands that are in this carpet. I'm trying to understand. Yeah, he's going to say that's trivial knowledge. That's superfluous. Why are you going to spend 50 years counting the number of strands in your carpet? What's the meaning behind that? Well, I'll say, what's the meaning behind studying countless stars? What's the meaning behind studying fish and studying these things? The only difference between me studying my carpet and each individual strand is it's the same as the other strand, when in your case they're different. But what's the real difference? Matter. At the end of the day, everything's matter anyway. Atheism, honestly, Imran, I'm telling you, if I was an atheist, the last thing I'd do is go and tell other people to become atheists, because it's so dark, it's so depressing, it's so meaningless, it's so nihilistic, it's so empty. Why the hell would I want somebody else to go through that pain?
Yeah. But you're absolutely right, bro. But look, okay, before I get to that, I want a bit more from you on that, because for me, what I took from that last bit was, it seems like he still wants you to focus on the question of who we are and why we're here, because that's what he says, right? And it's almost like an innate need to find this out. But what he's doing is he's directing you towards the science. So it's almost like it's going to happen through studying the universe, studying the world.
Why is that important? Why is that important? Why? Okay, look, it's very, very simple. I don't know why he's trying to. You see, God of the gaps, right? He's doing meaning. He's doing meaning of the gaps. So he's basically saying, oh, there's meaning and understanding where we came from. Well, Mr. Dawkins, let's just go with The Greatest Show on Earth, your book, and let's just make it very, very clear. Well, it started off with some sort of abiogenesis, and then we had natural selection taking over, and we had the tree of life, and the ultimate rationale of life, as you say in the Selfish Gene, is the preservation of our genes, right? And everything else is a proximate mechanism. It's not rocket science. It's simply science. This is the meaning of life. The meaning of life is procreation. And why do we exist? Why are we here? Just dumb luck, right? We, in terms of the way we came into the earth, chances are it could have been not us, and it could have been a recombination of somebody else. So no problem. I mean, I don't know why he's trying to hide the meaning of life in some vague thing. It's very understanding where we came from science. It's very clear. You've told us. You told us where we came from. What more do we need to know? We already sequenced the human genome, right? What else? Like, what else is there?
Yeah, I think there may be there may be a subtle blurring of lines between the how and why here as well, right? That you may figure out more and more of the how of this happened or that happened, or the planets formed or the human life emerged, etc. But the why would never be answered by the science, and it's the why that we're seeking and searching for, right?
Yeah, Faryal Sheikh, could you go to that comment, please?
Carpet analogy.
Yeah, the carpet analogy. So the carpet analogy is not mine. This is by a philosopher, Trevor Hedberg. And Trevor Hedberg, you can look him up. He talks about, truth being intrinsically valuable or instrumentally valuable. So I don't want to come across as some big intellectual or whatever. These are just things.
Give us a bit more clarity on that. Truths being instrumentally valuable or intrinsically valuable. So are you saying there are type of truths which are intrinsically valuable to our existence, and there are type of truths which are just useful when life is comfortable, and it's just like additional knowledge, if you like, about things which is not directly related to your being? Is that what you say?
No, I don't mean that, Imran. What I basically mean is that everything is, like I said before, survival and reproduction is the ultimate goal of life.
Yep.
Everything else is a proximate mechanism. Rationality is a proximate mechanism, right? Fiction is a proximate mechanism, and following truth is a proximate mechanism, all to help you survive and reproduce. It's all meaningless. They don't have any intrinsic worth. Pleasure has no intrinsic worth. Truth has no intrinsic worth. They're only instrumentally valuable. Okay? Now, the question is, why shall an atheist follow truth rather than falsehood, or falsehood rather than truth? And the answer is, an atheist would say, well, truth is valuable. We would say, how is it valuable? They'll say it helps you survive. We'll say, perfect. It helps you survive. That means it's instrumentally valuable. It's instrumentally valuable, right? It's not intrinsically valuable.
Yep.
Truth being intrinsically valuable is impossible under atheism.
Yep.
Truth being intrinsically valuable is only possible under the belief that there is a creator who is the one who is the truth. And he has told us that truth is valuable and we should follow truth. Truth is only valuable because, intrinsically valuable, because God created us and God is the truth and he wants us to follow the truth. Just like objective, look, I'm going to put it this way, right? Rape. Is rape objectively wrong according to atheism?
Well, they would act as if it is, but you can't account for it. No,
you can't account for it, right? It's subjectively valuable, right? It's subjectively true, if you like. Okay, if I today say I want to follow truth, I want to follow falsehood, I don't want to follow truth. Somebody's going to say, don't do that. I'll say, why? They'll say, you should follow truth. I'll say, why? They said, you just should. I'll be like, why? They'll say, because truth is good. Aha. Truth being good and following truth means truth is a moral value. It's a moral value. Somebody being truthful is a moral judgment. Someone being a liar or following lies or following the blind opiate of the masses, this is a moral judgment. A moral judgment you will make is this is evil. So truth cannot have any value intrinsically unless and until you believe in a creator who gives it that value.
Yeah. Bro, it boils down to this. It's like human beings, we recognize innately, intuitively, rationally that there are truths and they are intrinsically valuable, etc. But you just can't account for these realities on atheism and naturalism, bro. And this is why, I think that is enough reason. Honestly, if someone sits down and thinks about it, that they think about their worldview, atheism and naturalism, and they think about the things they know to be true, and then they look at the contradiction between the two, that look, it's either one or the other. I can't have this if I maintain my atheism. Then it's very easy to see the folly of atheism and just to leave it and move on towards something which allows you to account for those things you know to be true, right? Yeah. So atheism has no utility, bro. It's void from every perspective. It just leaves you.
Imran put it this way, yeah. Firstly, atheists are like atheism is like a parasite. Yeah, a parasite cannot live without a host. So what happens is, historically, and we've seen this, you get a civilization which is based upon meaning, value, purpose, some sort of religious belief, some belief in the true world, and meaning a new world, meaning a hereafter. And then in this, you get a parasite. You get these people who are basically like, it's all meaningless, it's all rubbish, we shouldn't believe in religion. Okay. Whenever those people, if they ever, firstly, they never become the majority. But if they ever become the majority, then the very meaning and blind religious belief that they were mocking, they have to actually basically reinvent that in a different form, because society cannot work without, according to Yuval Noah Harari, a fiction. And the best way of getting human beings to cooperate in large numbers is through telling stories which are fictional. This is the standard evolutionary understanding. So if we have nationalism. Nationalism is false, but nationalism is something which is a fiction which helps societies to come together. Now, when we look at the Soviet Union, they were the first time when, for the a Christianized people, the parasite took over the host, and you have atheism taking over. When they took over, they didn't simply say life is meaningless, life is absurd. Doing science and studying the strands in your carpet is exactly the same. They made up their own fictions. They made up their own ideals. They made up. They had these types of sanctification things about their rulers. Lenin became this godlike figure, and his statues became everywhere. His portraits became everywhere. Then with Stalin, they had to basically make this religious fictional story to keep the state together, and eventually they collapsed, because the fact of the matter is, atheism, blind, cold, irrational atheism, cannot actually give you a gel which can bring mass human cooperation. All it's going to bring is anarchy. Because someone's like, you have to do this. You have to, like, for example, in Islam, we have the concept you obey the ruler, right? You obey the ruler. If you don't like the ruler, you still obey the ruler, right? In Islam, we have this mentality that you have to obey those in authority. That is Islam. Okay, good. Now, since that's Islam, if an atheist state tried to apply that, they will not have no moral imperative. In Islam, why do we follow rulers? Because in Islam, you're supposed to follow authority, because that's what God says, okay? An atheist society, okay, the government has given a new law that you have to wear a seatbelt, right? And you can't cross a red light. An atheist skeptic, moral skeptic will say, why? Why do I need to do this? The only argument they're going to come up with is the maximization of everybody's pleasure. Well, somebody say, well, I don't want the maximization of everyone's pleasure. I want to go for a red light. I don't want to wear seatbelts. I don't want to follow laws. I want to, molest people. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to kill people, whatever it is. Yeah. There's literally no society that can function on a pure atheist, nihilistic, meaningless perspective. You have to make fictional stories. Yeah,
bro. History is testament to this. You won't find any civilization in history which was born and brought up on the foundation of atheism. Although the civilizations may have let go of their views, their religious outlook, or the belief in God, or their morals, but you can argue that was what resulted in the collapse of civilizations once they moved away from these fundamental principles and ideas. But you won't find the opposite, and again, it boils down to a simple point that you're making. Without God, atheism leaves you with nihilism, and nihilism strips you from all meaning and drive which you need to go forward and move forward and to develop as a civilization and to grow, right? So even Lenin, you mentioned, was interesting, bro. John Gray, he's got a book called 7 Types of Atheism. He speaks about, he goes through it and he speaks about figures like Lenin. They were sanctified as gods, bro, literally. When he died, did you know they kept his corpse in a refrigerator? And they would get tailor-made suits for him, and they'll change his clothes out, and they did this for a while until his body started to rot and decompose, and they couldn't really maintain it. And then obviously, that was that. But it just shows how much they sanctified these people, bro.
In Moscow today, you can go see the body of Lenin.
Yeah, it's shocking, bro. And this is apparently a godless, atheist, naturalistic, materialist society, bro. And that's
I just wanted to say something. I'm definitely not somebody that's going to be praising Putin, the president of Russia. Definitely not a man who any Muslim should be supporting. But he did say something that I have to agree with. He is somebody who does believe in God. And someone asked him about belief in God. And he said something very interesting. This is in a TV interview. He said, the communists basically said that there's no God, right? The previous Soviets. And, they basically tried to make themselves as a type of God. However, he said something very, very interesting. He said those people during the World War that were in the trenches and had to stand up and face the enemies, when they were in those dire situations, they knew that there was a God.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
thought that was really interesting. I
Yeah.
thought it was really interesting. You know, we all know that there is a law when we are absolutely finished,
Yeah.
right? And it's only arrogance which stops us acting like that when we are in our normal daily lives.
Yeah. Even you, I think you mentioned the other day, Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, he said when they go, like the way they were starved and brought to the point of almost death, at that point, the ones that kept going and made the most of the situation were the ones that turned to God and became deeply religious, you know, and that was profound.
Yeah, because they believed in meaning.
Yeah. Which they found through God, and they couldn't find otherwise. So look, here's an interesting point, and I know it's a bit different or not related to what we're talking about, but it's an interesting segue. He says, Hassan says, I doubt Richard Dawkins has ever read the Quran once in his entire life. He seems scared of it. Now, I really resonate with this point, bro, because you know his most recent book, Outgrowing God. One of his primary audiences is the Muslim world, bro. He's talking directly to the Muslim world, right, and the Christians. We've got a video on this on the channel as well, where he makes several small errors which someone that's had even a superficial reading of the Islamic text should not make, right? Some very basic minor errors. He obviously doesn't seem to have read the Quran, and Hassan says he seems to be scared of it. I really believe that too. Why do you think that's the case? Do you believe that too? Do you think he's worried about Islam from some perspectives? Is he afraid of directly engaging with Muslims? That seems to be the case. What do you think?
I think it's simply arrogance. I don't think he's scared of, because one thing he does do is he always goes for low-hanging fruit. So William Lane Craig, the famous Christian philosopher who's really, really good at breaking down atheism, and he's taken on two of the horsemen, Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, and made them both look quite childish. He openly challenged Dawkins, and Dawkins didn't want to engage. So I don't think it's the case of him being scared. He just likes going for low-hanging fruit and making generalizations.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that he's attacking the Muslim world, and the Muslim world has become a big focus. I truly believe that new atheism is a pretext of Western interventionism in the Muslim lands. So new atheism is a pretext which is there to justify and vilify basically Muslims and attacks against Muslims. So what you find is that they try to make this binary us and them, us and them, us and them narrative between Muslims and the rest of the world. Was very beautiful, and wallahi, by Allah, this makes me feel happy. Yeah, right-wing Hindus hate Muslims, Zionists hate Muslims, right-wing Christians hate Muslims, right-wing Sikhs hate Muslims, Buddhists are killing Muslims, atheists are killing Muslims. Atheists are talking about using and supporting Christianity at the expense of Islam. Alhamdulillah, Allah's messenger has spoken the truth. This is the religion of truth, and all of the arrows of the enemies are going towards it. One of the sayings that I heard, I believe it's a saying of one of the Salaf, is that if you want to know where the truth is, look at where the enemy's arrows are going. Alhamdulillah, with all of their attacks, with all of their intellectual attacks, with all of their doubts, with all of their military campaigns, with all of their media propaganda, with all of these things, and even though they have the science, the know-how, the engineering, the mechanics, the internet, all of these things, big global conglomerates, companies, all these things, they're all gearing and attacking Islam and trying to force Muslims either to apostate or become liberal Muslims. But alhamdulillah, they have failed, and they'll continue to fail until Islam enters every house. Yeah. Because the Messenger of Allah spoke the truth. The Prophet ﷺ at the time, when Muslims were in one city in Medina, when all of the disbelievers had surrounded them, 10,000 strong. And he went down into the trench to break a boulder which could not be broken. And using his blessed hand, he struck the boulder and he told the Muslims, you are going to conquer Persia, you're going to conquer Syria, you're going to conquer Yemen. And this is when they're surrounded by enemies in one city, and all of Islam is in one city of the world. And today, in every corner of the world, Islam is reaching. Why? Because the messenger of Allah has spoken the truth. Honestly, Imran, I'll be very honest with you. If anybody is sincere and they look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, they don't need the Kalam cosmological argument. They don't need anything else. They don't even need answers on biological evolution. They will recognize this is a man who's spoken the truth, and every time he's made a prediction, it's come true, and whatever he has been saying is being fulfilled, and it will continue to be fulfilled until Islam enters every house.
Absolutely. I think you put it really well, bro. Because look, at the end of the day, as we know, and we've spoken about this before as well, the real battle is between those that want this world and those that want the hereafter, bro. Absolutely. Those that are focused on this world and those that are focused on getting as much of the world as they can and to amass as much as they can, they want people to be disconnected from the hereafter and any notion of the hereafter, bro. Because once you get people disconnected from their true reality and their true essence and who they are, and from the creator, you have tools at your disposal, cogs that you can fit into the system and use them to benefit from them. And what Islam does, and this is why it's a pain, to many people, is because it reminds human beings of who they really are and what their true significance is, right? It reminds them that you're not here to be a slave that's hungry for the world. You're here to earn the hereafter. You're here to connect with your creator. You're a special creation. God created you as a vicegerent, and he said, put you on this earth for a specific purpose. And that brings contentment to the human being, and no matter what situation he is in this life, because he's working for the hereafter. And that contentment is a dangerous thing, bro. Because when you have content human beings who are content with the little they have, they're of no use to you anymore from a worldly perspective, right? So this is why we said atheism is not in a vacuum, bro. Right? We mentioned this before. Atheism in and of itself is so weak, it has no foundations. But why is it being propped up? Because it links in with all of these other ideologies and philosophies, which at the end of the day are making people focus on the material, gaining more money, gaining more wealth, gaining more material possessions, right? That's why secularism, liberalism, this sort of reductionist, materialist outlook on science, all of these things, bro, what are they doing? The focus is dunya. That's all it is. And people are waking up, bro. People are waking up to this reality. And that's why, and I believe this is why people are moving away anyway. But I think this point by Adnan, I want to end on this, bro. I want to get your thoughts on this, yeah? What he's essentially saying is, let me just read it out to you, bro. How can you help someone to feel spirituality when you have convinced them about the existence of God and the truth of Prophet Muhammad rationally, but needs a spiritual experience to enter Islam? So what we're saying is, you convince someone, let's broaden this out a bit, you convince someone, Subur, that atheism, naturalism, all of these materialistic ideologies are going to leave you empty, drained, and without any meaning or purpose. Someone realizes this, they wake up, they're like, no, there's more to my life than this, I know this. They start searching, they start looking, you talk to them about God, you tell them about Islam, they understand Islam is the truth. Now, but there's still a barrier. They're saying, okay, you're calling me, I understand this, but how is this going to be different from what I had? Where is that connection? How do you get people to connect with this truth now? Connect with the creator, or wake up to that spiritual reality? What would you say, bro?
Okay, I want to answer the question by tweaking it, right? So brother Adnan Ahmad Z says, how can you help someone feel spirituality when they've convinced them about the existence of God and the truth of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but they need a spiritual experience to enter Islam? I want to answer your question, Adnan, in a different way. There's somebody who is not convinced about the existence of God, and they're not convinced about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and they do not find the Kalam cosmological argument or contingency argument, any of these good enough, or even the design argument. They have moral issues with the life of the Prophet ﷺ, with Banu Qurayza or the age of Aisha radiallahu anha. They're convinced that biological evolution, human-chimp ancestry is true, abiogenesis is true. They are full of doubts, and there's somebody not in this state. You could still do something. You could ask that person, look, just trust me, make a prayer, say to God, please show me the truth as truth and the falsehood as falsehood. That person who sincerely asks for guidance they will get guidance, because Islam is not, we're not robots. It's not Islam is a rational algorithm you download or you recognize and therefore you follow it. It's not the case that Abu Jahl is a disbeliever and Bilal is a believer because Abu Jahl was bad at philosophy, he was bad at critical thinking, and he didn't recognize something, or he had a lack of knowledge. No, it's the case that Bilal actually wanted guidance and Abu Jahl did not. If you want guidance, honestly, Allah will guide you, even though your brain may be filled with doubts. You may have a million trillion questions. You may have all of this baggage. If you're truly sincere, Allah is like a maze. You know, I saw a picture the other day of a maze. You have these little games where you have a maze and you have a ball that goes through this maze. You know, you have these key rings, yeah? Life is like a maze. Your future is like a maze. You've got all these different directions you can go into, yeah? But what does Allah do? Allah's guidance is that you get a bulldozer and you smash through that maze and there's a straight path. You get through all of the nonsense. You know exactly what you need to do in your life. And that is guidance. And how do you do it? You simply ask the person, ask God for guidance, even put yourself in sajda as a disbeliever and simply ask God, guide me, because I'll be very frank with you. I do not believe in anybody who does this is a liar, is a liar, is a liar. Anybody who says, I'm sincere and I'm looking for guidance and I haven't been guided, and they've been doing that and they've been patient and it's not like an instant thing, it's impossible that Allah will not guide them. It's impossible. They will definitely be guided. And alhamdulillah, this is something which many, many new Muslims have attested to. But here's the important point. We don't need their testimonies. It's just a truism. If you want guidance, Allah will give you guidance. If you don't want guidance, all of the philosophical arguments is not going to do anything for you, right? So that's something which I would definitely want to convey to Brother Ahmed.
Brilliant. One more question, bro. I think this was quite an important one as well. So we'll wrap up on this. I heard atheists said that there is no objective reason why a person ought to obey what God says. What is your response? This is by Brother Araf Khandakar.
Yes, so firstly, there's no objective reason to do anything under atheism, including following up a question like this, right? It's completely meaningless. So remember, it's the naked man walking into the street, pointing at people's hands and saying they're immoral. Atheists have no ground to stand on when they're talking about objective anything. Okay, do we as Muslims have an objective reason to follow God? Yes, because God's commands are outside of human subjectivity, so they're objective. And us as beings, we should obey God. What's the problem? There's no problem here. We have a choice. We can say we don't really care about God and we can reject it. God's not going to force us. But if we truly believe this is from God, then we follow it. We follow it. What's the issue here? And this is the problem. Why do we take atheists so seriously? You should next time ask this atheist, why is objective reason a good thing? Why shouldn't I just follow subjective falsehoods? Remember, take out the plug of the PlayStation that they're playing. Take out the plug. See if they can touch the control and they can do anything on the screen. They can't. The PlayStation switches off. The TV switches off. There's nothing. Life is meaningless. Everything is meaningless. This is why what you find is atheists bang on about everything, but they don't want to talk about nihilism and they don't want to talk about life being meaningless. That's something they don't want to talk about.
Brilliant, bro. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you, bro. You look like you're tired. You're about to go to sleep.
Can you come pick me up, please?
Yeah, I'm going to come pick you up now. So now I have to. Now I have to go publicly.
Great public commitment.
All right. So, Jazakallah khair. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to share this. Make sure to get this onto your social medias and get this out to as many non-Muslims and Muslims as possible. Make sure to subscribe. Check out Sabur's channel. He's starting to get active again on the channel. He's been doing some really funky videos with some very funky backgrounds. So definitely check those out on Darwinian Delusions. You did one with a brother, an African brother called Hamid. You need to watch that video. Give him some feedback on his backgrounds as well. I think he needs.
Maintain social distancing as well. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Coming from you, that sounds out. But yeah, okay. Thank you, brothers and sisters, and make sure to share it. And I'll speak to you guys next time. Salam.